Welcome back, everybody. In our last episode, we finished up by thinking about all of the other things that we notice or don't notice, and how important it is to notice the things around us that we are grieving and that we're losing all the time. And so we thought we'd start kind of go on from there. And we were just talking about Ana Luisa had shared a story. You want to share your story again, because that's a good way to talk about how we miss things.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
yes,
The
that's right.
man with the
Okay.
goose.
Yes. Okay. So I'm the
The
Reverend Mother
Altagoose.
Ana Luisa Armendariz, and just a few months ago there was a ceremony to the city of Denver has donated some public space for indigenous folks to come and replant some, native grasses and do more ceremony out in this space. And I showed up for the big hurrah. Lots of folks out there, really excited. And of course, I, talk to people and people ask what I do. And then I mentioned the podcast. And I was talking to this young man, maybe 30s, and well dressed, snappy city guy. And I said, yeah, I podcast about death and dying. And he says, oh, that's interesting. But he's like, I have not experienced any death in my life whatsoever. And I mean, I just stood there and I was like, but you are like in this park right now, the leaves are falling off of trees and the grass is dead beneath our feet. And, there's a dead goose down the way. Like it's visible. Uh, that's a death. And what I was struck by, he really did this kind of like 360 circle. And he was like, oh my God, I never thought about it. Like things are dead around me. And I'm like, dude, like news flash. And not to like poke fun at that, even though I did. But it really truly is a matter of being trained, of being shown the world around you in both its life and death and the cycle in between. And I think that a lot of people just assume that because they haven't had a grandparent die, or maybe they've never had a pet or whatever, that they surely have not experienced death firsthand. But like we've talked on the podcast, Joaquin, like we lose, dreams, and we lose friendships, and we lose our favorite rings. Death happens to us. We grieve. We have a perpetual kind of, it's in our lineage to
Yeah,
to
yeah,
grieve,
yeah,
so
yeah.
so
Well,
Sam, yes, that was the
yeah,
story.
that was the story. Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you.
and we also mentioned, as we were talking about this, that all around us right now, climate change is happening, and so many things are being affected by that. That I think does affect a lot of us without us even really recognizing it. When we feel the differences in the climate, we feel the differences in the amount of the weather, and the way our plants are responding and the way animals are responding. And I think, making it a point to notice that is another reason for this kind of conversation, for us to talk about this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, I think, well, first, my name is Sam Lee Zemke, and I was mostly thinking in this last 5 minutes that we forgot to introduce the podcast. So,
End of live conversations.
end of live
Welcome
conversations. Welcome to
welcome
current events.
to current
Yeah, yeah.
events.
And I'm
To current
Joaquin David
events.
Matthews. I forgot to say that too. But it does say that on my thing.
It
You're
does.
sillies. This is life.
Yeah.
Let's see. What I would contribute is in my current training, like I said, very like focused on grief counseling right now, and we're reading a really amazing book called Earth Grief by Stephen Herod Buhner, and I would like to read a little brief thing. Astonishingly enough, the decision to turn the face to the source of the pain and grief, to fully embrace it, stimulates over time the emergence of the form of earth work that is uniquely yours to do.
Mm.
Work that comes from your essential genius, the work you were born to do, the work that earth needs you and only you to do.
Yeah. 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 Beautiful. Very well put. Very well said.
It is very well put, because as an aside, last night I had this very stressful dream about 2 big Kodiak bears that who were passing by my yard, and I was like, I closed down the doors because I knew they could come in, and they still try to come in, and I was like, "What is my" and I woke up thinking, I was like, "What do I need to take care of right now?" Because them big Kodiaks were trying to get in my house.
Mm.
So,
They're
yeah,
asking for some help. You'd also maybe that's related. You talked about a movie you saw about the loss of a glacier and how big of an impact that was on you.
yes, so as many of you have heard on this podcast that I have a very I'm a reluctant crier, and I don't do it to I don't think I do it to stifle it, but I know I don't ever feel like to break like, grief doesn't show up as tears for me. But I was at Sundance recently, and the film festival, I ended up picking a lot of documentaries, and the very first one I chose was, one called Time and Water. It's a United States and Icelandic movie, based on a book by, this guy named Andre Snær Magnusson, and I wept and wept because of Iceland actually had a funeral for their glacier who died. They put it out, people showed up, and Andre was tasked with writing the obituary for the glacier because in Iceland, they believe that these are living beings, and it was so devastating.
Mm,
And this is, the story was glacier, time and water. Also, it was a very so freaking cool. It's like thinking geological time
mhm.
and, our fake time that we create. And then, Andre spends his time, watching videos of his grandparents who became glaciologists
Oh,
and their camping trips to a few glaciers, and so he's documenting time through images, which he thinks he's like, at the very beginning of the story, he's like, "I am sending this out as a missive to the future. I don't even know if I'll be alive if this ever matters to anybody else, but
wow.
I'm gonna share this story of this glacier who has died." And that, like, 5 minutes in, I'm like, "God, I just tears." Like,
Mhm.
it was, yes, because I do really mourn the loss of animal and plant life, it means a lot to me because I'm an outdoor girl, so I
Mhm.
feel more
Mhm.
connected to the outdoors than I am to humans, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yes, it was a great
And
movie.
yeah. I was just reading an article that was talking about how climate change has changed the way plants are responding because they have thousands and thousands of years of DNA that tells them how to respond and in what timing and what things to pay attention to and because of climate change those inputs are different now. And so they aren't getting the right inputs and they're not fertile, becoming fertile or flowering or whatever in their normal time frame, which affects everything because, of course, plants are connected to animals, connected to insects, all of those things. I'm just reading this other book about Umwelt, about the way we perceive things. So all of these creatures, all of these different living things, um, their Umwelt is to perceive things in much different ways than we possibly can, but they're all
Mhm,
affected. And it's all and the way we perceive things, all of us and all these creatures, is the way that it are over many, many, many thousands of years, we've evolved to perceive the things that keep us alive or that keep
mhm,
us regenerating or whatever. Um, and so when things start getting skewed as badly as they are and as quickly as they are, if they change slowly, which they don't normally would, we can adjust and we do adjust and plants adjust and animals adjust.
mhm.
But it's changing so quickly now that animals and plants and things are not adjusting and
That's right.
therefore they're dying and they're being lost.
Well, they're
Um,
hungry too.
and
That's
they're
that's the
hungry.
thing, right?
Yeah. And
Um, I
they're looking for other sources of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and another book alongside yours, sorry, Sam, I'm gonna just jump in. Phenology by Teresa Crimmins.
Mhm.
It's coming out of MIT Press, and I bought this book, but it's about timing when trees bloom, flowers bloom, birds migrate, animals hibernate, right? If all those little it's like ecological time. If
Mhm.
somebody gets up too soon, then there's that window when somebody else can't eat, and then
Right.
they're really hungry, so it's a really good book too. Same thing, like, I feel like, we make assumptions about time. It's like, there's so many different time clocks, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
this is climate time.
Yeah, right. And, we made up time in the first place, right? So
Yeah,
so
Sam,
yeah.
what were you gonna say? I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Oh, I was just gonna reference the hungry bears in your dream trying to come into
Mm.
your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they were trying to get into the house, so, it's just I just worry a lot, and I didn't see any bear movies at the film festival. But a lot of climate movies, a lot of as an aside too, I watched this documentary about, in 1970, there was a law that was passed that universities, museums, and archives had to give Native Americans their ancestors' bones back,
Mm.
and very few have ever actually done it. It's in spite of being sued constantly. And so they followed there's these 2 tribes who finally were able to get some of their ancestors from the like, literally the prison cells of Michigan State, like, just in
Huh.
the basement, boxes stacked up in some closet, and, so, not climate related, but also time related, like,
Mhm.
people's
Mhm.
ancestors belong in the earth.
Yeah, yeah, as we all do. Yeah, we had a conversation, I was doing the class on, planning, end of life planning, and I had a conversation with folks about disposition of the body, and, we were talking about how, over generations, and only really for the last couple 100 years, we've thought the best way to dispose of the body was to not dispose of it, basically to
Mhm.
fill it full of chemicals and put it in a concrete box in a metal
Mhm. Yep.
casket and make sure it never goes away. And that, the natural, of course, the way that happened for thousands and thousands and thousands of years was we put our bodies in the ground. And so many of us are going back to that again. And it also, though, I think what's kind of underlying all this, which is really what's on my heart with this, is how much this affects us, even though we
Mhm.
don't speak it out loud or say it out loud, how much we feel it, and I'm walking around like same as you and both of you, I'm sure, spend a lot of time outdoors. And when I'm walking around right now at the beginning of February, and I'm seeing buds
Mhm.
coming out on
Mhm.
trees, right?
Mhm.
And I was looking back at some old
Mm.
poetry, and I have poetry from several years ago, not that long ago, kind of with this poetry that says basically, "Wait a minute, are you sure? You know, what do you know that I don't know?" Or maybe you're confused because things are not what they would normally be in February in this part of the country, right?
Yeah.
And it does worry me, it's something that if I notice it, when I notice it, and I think that's the other thing we're talking about is noticing. When I do notice it, I can feel in my heart and in my soul that there's something not there, something amiss, and that I'm also feeling that disconnect. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was in specifically in the Earth Grief book. I'm reading 3 books for this training, and so they all bleed together because my instructor is a very, very good grief counselor, Bodhi, who you've interviewed a couple times on here. But one of the other streams in that is talking about all of the methods that we have for alleviating that feeling that something's off.
mhm,
All of the like psychological modalities, the self-help modalities, all the things that go into like don't think about it, don't be affected by it, and go back to your daily thing.
mhm,
When it's appropriate to be feeling grief and sorrow and this pain of the loss and the death of so much of our beautiful beloved planet.
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
and to like the how critical, speaking back to the quote I read, like how critical it is to face those and be present with them and let them like inform and impact us and guide us in the way
Yeah.
Mhm.
that we show
Mhm.
up in our world.
So Sam, I really appreciate that, and I wonder if you could expound on that because if you aren't like I feel like we're very privileged that we have language to discuss grief and
Uh-huh.
its iterations of grief and its, the spectrum of grief that we can encounter. But I wonder if, when we talk about facing grief and, metabolizing grief, like, what does it mean for people who listen to this? Like, how, like,
Mm.
it's scary. It's like, what does that mean? And, the capitalist grind doesn't allow people to fall on their face for 2 weeks and just,
Right.
weep and gnash their teeth. So, what can someone who is feeling that kind of like the not balanced in their life and they feel that pain of sadness, what can we offer them?
Yeah.
Uh,
Good question.
I'm the wrongest person to ask about how a person who is crushed by the grind um can
Yeah,
find space and train that, because that's not the world that I live in. That's not I had to eject from that,
mhm,
um, and find a different way
Mhm.
to be in the world.
right, and very few people we're all in it, right?
Right. Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I'm just straight up, I don't know. That's part of what I'm learning though. Part of what has called me to this work is to like
Right,
how do I process my own grief and be present with my own grief, and how can I use my
Yeah.
willingness and compassion and empathy and big heart around that, and around that, the importance of that process, to show up for other people in that way.
right,
And so,
yeah,
Yeah.
read books. I don't know. Listen to podcasts.
yeah.
Listen to our podcast. We
Listen
say
to the
lots of
podcast.
good things
That's
about
right.
about how to do that, and we're getting better at offering practical solutions for developing
That's
those skills, I think.
that's right. And it was, I asked you that because I thought maybe you had, like, a class that had just taught you some new verbiage for doing this, but I will stop and I want to be very explicit to a listener who feels that pain, that dis-ease in their body or in their mind or, sometimes I've had a loss that I can't shut it out of my brain, like, it's all that spinning in my head. I can barely breathe, and I'm just like, "What do I do?" I'm desperate,
Right.
like, I gotta get back out there, right, and do something, but so when Sam speaks to face the pain, you know, it's just not trying to numb it. It's like, we're not gonna go drinking it out and or watch, 24 hours of television or whatever. Those are all tools that make us not look inward. So, what we can do is just sit, like, physically sit and just breathe into whatever's happening. And maybe you do have to spin for a while, at the edge of your bed or on the back step of your house and just like, ow, 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 ow.
Mhm.
And then until, you know, it begins to kind of like soften. And what I term as metabolizing, like it just becomes kind of in my self. It's like, yes, okay, that was a death, this is how I'm feeling about it, and it is now my story. This is my that's how I'm connected with this being. And, that's what it means to sit with death.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
or, if you have someone to talk to, and if they are ready to mirror your pain and hold you through it, it's what it means.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everybody can do it all the time, but part of what I think that we're talking about with climate change and about, not kind of feeling disoriented with what's going on outside our front doors, it's time to we sit and we
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
like, owie it for a while. Like, there is
Right.
no
Right.
Band-Aid here, folks. We have to,
Yeah.
like, sob a bit.
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
really, really important. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
yeah, thanks on Lisa. And as you expanded yourself on that, I was reminded of my last big heartbreak grief period in my personal life. And, sometimes the big feelings come when there's not anybody to talk to.
That's
And
right.
sometimes just holding it all inside doesn't work because
Mhm.
it just runs you
Mhm.
ragged. Um,
Mhm.
and so in that time, the practice of journaling was really, really helpful because
Hmm.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night just racked,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
couldn't get it out. So just write down whatever. It doesn't matter what it is that's
Yeah.
running you through your paces.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
write it
Mhm.
down, get it out of your head. You don't ever have to read it again. Sometimes it's really helpful to read it, go back and be like, "Whoa, how did I get through that?
And you froze.
How the how how the hell did I get through that?"
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one of the things I was thinking about is that what we're kind of speaking to here is that it's really normal for us to want to push that away, and what we're really advocating for here is to be courageous enough to hold it and to embrace it and to recognize it as something that's as important to you as love and joy and happiness, and hold it and let it come in. There's a like a Sufi practice of bringing it in and having offering it a cup of tea, allowing that part of you to come in and be with yourself and just holding it. And the finding a group is a good idea. Reading, and writing, as Sam said, there's a lot of different great tools out there, but all of them are about, first of all, begins with your willingness to actually hold on to it and look at it and breathe with it, get on the back porch, cry with it, whatever, but not to push it away, because then pushing it away doesn't work, first of
Right.
all. Right.
And it's you know what? It's an act of bravery. It is
It is.
it's very scary because we don't have the cultural construct for folks to feel comfortable doing this collectively or even on their own, right? So I will say it's a brave act. And I worked with a healer out of Mexico one time, and I told her, like, sometimes this is like after my divorce, and I just told her, I was like, I feel like crying, like but I can't get it out of my chest, like my tears don't flow, and but I can feel like something is bottled up there. And she had me just open my mouth and say, "Ah, ah, ah," and she's like,
Mhm.
"No, keep going." And whenever you feel that, you just have to open up that mouth to, like, let things just be rolling through there, right? So breath work is probably really essential here, but being brave enough to face that, even though, I can't stand when people say, like, "Oh, I was ugly crying." Like, why are we judging crying? Like, dear God, I wept. I was so upset. I was so, I after, when I was in seminary in I don't know if I saw you that week, Wakil, when my sister, after she died, um, I had to skip my afternoon class, and I walked all over Berkeley, weirdly, just randomly. I had nowhere to go, and I think of it as I bawled like a newborn calf. Like, I was just, like, trudging down the street with my book bag, just, like, bawling, and, everybody was like, "Avert your eyes, avert your eyes." And I was like, "I don't care, like, I don't need to be." The only person who who met me where I walked into this restaurant finally, and, snot, the whole thing, and I just, like, "I think I need water," and to sit down and get something to eat, and I this person was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, my sister just died, and I just am crying." And then she's like, "Well, what do you need?" And I'm like, "I think I need a glass of champagne." She's like, "Let's do this." And so I had a glass of champagne, and, like, and then yeah, and then I headed back to school.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I have seen that. I had that experience when my mom died, and I was flying home at the time. And when I got to the airport, I was just sitting out in the arrivals, weeping. And most of the people were doing what you're talking about, just like, "Oh, I'm not going to look at that. But one person walked up and asked how I was doing, and that's just such a gift. My God, what an
Mhm.
incredible gift!
I know. Yeah,
Just to be aware,
yeah.
how any of us, if we see something like that, we have that opportunity to be that
Mhm.
person, right?
Yes.
So not only open your own heart, but be willing to be there for other people who are going through it. So don't be afraid. Yeah.
Or face your fears as you face your sorrows
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right,
as
that's
best
right.
as you can.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other thing as we're talking about this and thinking about what we talked about last week regarding attention and phone and the constant bombardment. And as we awaken to the vastness of the grief in the world, it can be really overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
And I personally don't want to be a purist about you gotta be in the muck all the time,
Right.
24/7. Never say, okay, that's enough. I can be done with that for now.
Yeah.
And I think there can be a differentiation made between pushing it away and
Mhm.
putting it away for a little while. Like,
Beautiful.
I like that. Yes.
I'm reminded of part of the EMDR therapy
Mhm.
practice. You know, it's a
Mhm.
whole thing, and I'm not going to advocate people like just willy nilly do EMDR, but there is a part of it that is constructing a container for yourself and for the things that you're dealing with that you can put
Mhm.
things inside of. That's a
Mm.
cozy
Mhm.
place
Hmm.
that you can then take them out of again and do that. There's also, you know, if you're having trouble sleeping, you know, start filing your thoughts into different filing cabinet
Mhm.
mentally.
It's
Um,
yeah, it's like the crystal palaces that we could build.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and just visualize a safe place to put that where you can
Mhm.
access it when it's time and when you can
Mhm.
come back to
Mhm.
it and know that that's close or within you, and so it's not running away, it's not denying the importance. It's just like okay, like I've cried myself out right now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
maybe I need to go watch some trashy reality TV or, you know, something else, hopefully not drinking
Yeah.
myself to death, but like I'm
Well,
gonna take a
yeah, and
break and come back to it.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
beautiful. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a purist either. You can sometimes we do things like this, you know. I have a tendency to have my bad habits pop up when I'm in grief mode.
Yeah. Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
well, I mean, that's why we have late night television too. We can turn on Colbert or something like that and just laugh about how insane the world is.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. Thank you, Sam. That's a really important thing to know that yeah, you don't have to don't hurt yourself. Be kind, be generous. I mean, the first thing in the first verses of almost every surah in the Quran is compassion and mercy. Bismillah Rahman Rahim, and that's about yourself. Be compassionate, be merciful with yourself and with others, and that's why and that's so important. So thank you for reminding us of that, Sam. Yeah. So we're kind of close to our time. We did, you know, it's always such an incredible opportunity to be with you all.
I love
Yes.
it.
Yeah. So I appreciate you both very, very much, and I appreciate all of you out there in the world. And thank you, and hopefully you'll keep in touch and subscribe
Yeah.
and
And
like
email
and
us with
yeah,
ideas for current events because
yeah,
we're going to be with you in the moment.
yeah. That's our
Yes.
intention, and we're
Mhm.
really grateful for this privilege to be able to do this. So much
Yeah.
love. Adios.
See you next
Adios.
week. Adios.
And I agree.